Jonathan Roumie is the actor who portrays Jesus Christ in the hit TV show The Chosen. Having just launched its 5th season, the show has already been watched by over 280 million people around the world, winning Jonathan legions of fans and critical acclaim. And in this one-on-one interview, Jonathan opens up about how he was struggling in life before taking on this incredible role. I know there was one stage even when you said you had $20 in your pocket and that was kind of just about it.
Yeah, the goal was to just at least at that point pay my bills and to have enough food for more than just the next day.
And how, after putting his career in God's hands, he says everything changed.
I basically surrendered everything to him. I said, I'm giving this over to you, Lord, and if this is what you want from me, if you want me to continue, then you have to step in here because I'm at the end of my rope, I'm at my wit's end.
And Jonathan is honest about the struggles of being a believer.
The enemy attacking us and making us think twice about, the utility of religion or faith or the reality of God. Does God even exist? Like, what's the point?
We talk about The Chosen, from his reaction to being asked to play Jesus in the religious-themed drama. What if I'm typecast? What if, if I take you in, that didn't worry you at all? No.
No, I mean, listen, if an actor is typecast, he should count his blessings.
And now that it has become such a huge hit around the world, we talk about the psychological aspect of portraying Jesus, someone that billions of people follow. It puts the bar much higher for you in your own personal life as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes me much more aware of an implied level of accountability. I can aspire to sainthood. That's my goal.
I'm Colm Flynn, and this is an interview with Jonathan Roumie. Jonathan Roumie, great to see you. How are you doing?
Good to see you, Colm. Thanks for having me here.
It's been just a few hours since you were at the Vatican and you got to meet Pope Leo XIV. What was that like?
I did. It was fantastic. He was so kind and so gracious and generous with his time. There's so much happening at once when he's meeting people and so many people there, and it just kind of all goes by in a blur, and there's so many things you want to say to him, and you maybe get 2 of the 10 things out, and I call that a win.
What did you say to him, and what did the Holy Father say to you?
There was a lot that was said in a short amount of time, and most of it is a blur, but I told him that I think I told him that I was humbled to be there, and it was great to meet him. He hadn't seen the show that I'm on, but his brother was a fan of it, and so he knew of the show, and I said, well, we brought some DVDs to help remedy that.
Were you like,
situation.
Do you have a DVD player in there? Or do you want me to hook one up? Or?
I didn't want to go into if he has an Amazon account or anything like that because, just didn't want to get so. We got old school media, and so he was very gracious.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know that you had met Pope Francis, I think, twice, was it?
That's right.
What was the difference between meeting Pope Francis and now meeting kind of one of your own, an American Pope, Pope Leo?
About 2 years.
2 years of a difference. Yeah. This should be a comedy show with Jonathan Roumie tonight on EWTN.
Well, I mean, the most notable difference was not having a language barrier. I wasn't trying to prepare something in Spanish to be able to muddle through for Pope Francis, like I did at the times that I met him. But when you can communicate with somebody in your own language, it makes all the difference. For instance, I mentioned, because Pope Leo is from Chicago, I said, it's nice to be able to throw out references like the Bulls and the Bears and him understand what I'm referencing. So I think you got a kick out of that.
I read somewhere that you had said when you heard that the Pope was an American Pope that you actually wept. You found it so emotional.
Yes, because I just never thought I would ever live to see the day. I just, I feel like the minority of cardinals being American was just so against the possibilities of becoming a pontiff in my lifetime that I just, when it turned out to be him, and there was just just a kindness on his face and just a charity about him that just moved me. It was really, it was overwhelming at first, and just really, really excited. I didn't think I would get to meet him this soon and this early into his pontificate, so this was a very welcome surprise.
So the next time you meet him, you're going to have to ask him what he thought of the DVDs, since he has them. No excuse, Holy Father.
Do you have a DVD player?
Yeah. I can give you my Amazon account login if you want,
right.
But I mean, just use it for a while. This is incredible because you're here in Rome. You were premiering season 5 of The Chosen.
Yeah.
And I know we were recently together in Matera where you were filming season 6, which we're really looking forward to as well. And when we look at how successful the series has been, with people of faith, with people of no faith, with 280 million viewers, is it?
Last I heard, 280, 300, somewhere around there.
In 175 countries around the world.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the incredible success and how it's changed your life, if we go back to your days kind of as an ambitious young actor, you're from New York City, is that right?
That's right.
Did you start acting in New York? Is that where the bug bit you, or where did you
did? Yeah, I started in New York. I started in voiceover, and then I found my way into commercials, mostly voice for commercials at first, and then on camera, and then I did some theater, and I think by the time I did my first couple of plays, I was sunk. I was like, okay, and I got to figure out how to do this for a living.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. So I didn't quit my day job until I moved out of New York City, and then I had to find different day jobs, a variety of which I had never done before, like catering and rideshare driving and food delivery and house painting and teaching and everything you do as an actor to just keep the bills paid, hopefully.
It's that stereotype of living in Los Angeles. Every second person you meet, whether it's the waiter or the Uber driver, they're also an actor doing auditions on the side.
Yeah.
Tough life.
I mean, it's not for everybody, finding a job that offers you flexibility to cultivate a skill set to be able to do the thing that you really want to do. It's not for most people. And to find success at it, I think it's kind of up there with like the odds of being an Olympian, like an Olympic athlete. Getting to that point, it's so rare. It just feels like it's almost impossible. But if you, for my money, I believe, and I still believe that God gave me certain gifts to use, to share with the world, and specifically to glorify His name in some way. And until I realized that, I didn't really have success. And once I committed my career to Him, and in doing so, the entirety of my life, that's when my life changed.
And was it in the family in any way? Because your dad is Egyptian, and your mother's from this beautiful island on the west coast of Europe called Ireland.
Yeah.
Any of them in show business or entertainment or acting?
No, the furthest thing from the arts. But actually, it's not true. My father was a naturally gifted artist, but he never pursued performing arts or anything like that. And in doing so, and trying to make a living for his family and provide for his family, what he did do was give his children the option and the encouragement to do whatever we felt called to do. And so having seen him sort of sacrifice his potential artistic career, I kind of made it a personal commitment to make sure that I succeeded in honor of his sacrifice.
And Jonathan, when you were living in Los Angeles, as you said, such a tough industry, such a difficult game, and the odds of making it are so slim. I know there was one stage even when you said you had $20 in your pocket and that was kind of just about it.
Yeah.
And you weren't sure where the next gig was going to come from. What was driving you? What were you aiming towards? What did you want in your life at that point?
To work. I just simply wanted to work consistently. Even at that point that you're referencing, I was about 7 years ago, the goal was to just at least at that point pay my bills and to have enough food for more than just the next day, which I didn't. And so even like the idea of working as an actor, that was like, well, let's get survival. That's the priority right now. Survival is the priority.
Did you have a plan B? Did
No.
you think, maybe I'll give up the acting and try something else, or just,
No. In fact, when I first got to Los Angeles, when I found the first church that I started going to, I was having a chat with the priest, with the head of the parish, and we were talking, and I was just kind of sharing that I was struggling, and still try to find joy and trust in God and faith and everything, but it was just, everything was really hard, and I wasn't quite working as an actor in the way that I'd hoped to have been by that point, even a couple of years in, and he was an older Irish priest, Father Colum, funny enough, and he's like,
it was me.
It was you. Yeah. Whoa,
I
this is
reinvented
weird.
myself.
How did you do that?
Good to see you again, my son.
Yeah. And he's like, well, do you have a plan B? And I said, Father, this is my plan B. He's like, oh, good heavens. Well, I'll pray for you. And that was the advice I got. In prayer, which actually is everything. It's probably what I needed.
And I know you often talk about the strength of your faith now, but I guess it's easy to have good faith and strong faith in God during the good times, but in the tough times, when you were in Los Angeles and struggling to get by, were you thinking, God, what about me here? Don't forget about Jonathan.
Well, I think it was precisely in those tough moments, in that specifically challenging moment, that I had no other alternative but to turn to my faith and to really activate the thing in which I believed, which was that God was there, He was with me, He was present, not only in the good times, but especially through the troubles and the trials, and that if I really were to walk the walk of faith, then I have to put my money where my mouth is, and I have to believe Him when He says, I am with you, and nothing is impossible for me, and to ask and you shall receive, and seek and you shall find, and knock and the door will be opened, and so I did that in that moment, and I basically said that I basically surrendered everything to Him. I said, I'm giving this over to you, Lord, and if this is what you want from me, if you want me to continue walking the path of an artist, then you have to step in here, because I'm at the end of my rope, I'm at my wit's end, I don't know where to go next, and so it's yours. And when I did that, I truly felt that a weight had been lifted, a responsibility was no longer mine. There was the burden wasn't on me anymore, nor had it really ever been on me, but I just assumed it was, and I acted like it was, because I wasn't trusting in that relationship the way I ought to have been.
And challenging to maintain that strong faith in a place like Los Angeles, in the entertainment industry, in those circles. I remember hearing you say before to the New York Times that someone had advised you once, look, I'll give you some advice. Don't talk about your faith publicly. It just won't do you any favors in this game.
Yeah. I think finding the right community is key. It's vital. If you don't have some sort of community, some sort of faith community, some sort of outlet with which you can share your faith and feel like you have support, feel like you have a village, it's going to be that much harder. The enemy always is looking to divide us against each other and to tear us apart, and to, because when we're strong, when we're together, when we're supporting each other, when we're listening to each other, when we're there for each other, then we are stronger as a people, we're stronger as a group of believers, but when we're singled out and isolated and just, in a state of solitude and we don't have that kind of faith community to rely on, then we're much more susceptible to the enemy attacking us and making us think twice about, the utility of religion or faith or the reality of God. Does God even exist? Like, what's the point? Like, you then become a much bigger target for the enemy when you're not, in community. And Christ himself says, whenever two or more are present in my name, I am there with you. I think that's part of having a faith community. So if you don't have a faith community, the first thing you need to do to strengthen yourself, to get out of your depression, get out of your whatever kind of state of mind that might be holding you back from moving forward in your faith journey, find a community, find a good priest, find people that you can talk to that are like-minded, that you can share your faith with and not feel you're completely and totally alone, and or somebody to pray with even, and that can become the beginning of a tectonic shift in your, not only your spiritual life, but your physical life, your reality. The reality of the life you're living will change through that community in Christ.
And that's what happened to you when you put your trust in God.
Yeah.
Your whole reality changed.
Yes.
When Dallas Jenkins asked you to take part in this new crowdfunded project that was probably going to go nowhere, not get much attention, but we'll try it anyway, something called The Chosen. Did you hesitate when he asked you to get involved?
No.
No?
No, because I had worked with them already, number one. Number two, I needed a job. And number three, I had just committed 3 months earlier to following the Lord's direction, and wherever the Spirit was kind of leading me, to evaluate it and discern it and pray about it. But since Dallas and I had already had a relationship and friendship and a working relationship for the previous 4 years, it was literally a matter of just saying, when do we start?
But even the secular side of things, and again that worry, what if I'm typecast? What if if I take you didn't, that didn't worry you at all? No.
No, I mean, listen, if an actor is typecast, he should count his blessings, because that means he's working, and most people aren't working. That's just the reality of it. So thank God if you're typecast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not worried about being typecast as Jesus. If nobody wants to, will I play Jesus in other projects after this? Probably not. But, if somebody were to cast me as some other biblical character, well, if the script is great and the director is great and the cast is great and it's a compelling and an interesting story that I feel like I want to tell or I can contribute to or challenges me in some way, yeah, I'm going to give it a serious consideration, because I like telling those stories.
So good stories.
Good stories, well told.
Well told, yeah.
That's right.
And to be honest, in your heart of hearts, when you first read the scripts and the concept for The Chosen, did you think, well, this is great, but I don't think it's going to take off and be a success, or did you see something in it that could work?
No, because I knew everything starts with a script, and the scripts were so good that I thought, this is fantastic, and hopefully it'll go somewhere, but I know there's no guarantees, and the only guarantee was that I had 4 episodes of a TV show, and that was more consecutive episodes of a television show than I'd ever shot in my career. Not counting a couple of soaps that I did in New York early on, but yeah, and then just being on set and seeing the moments that we were creating, we kind of knew, by the end of those filming, or nearing the end of the filming of the first 4 episodes, that what we were doing was uniquely special. It was uniquely special. It was unlike anything else that had ever been tackled before. So I kind of felt that something might happen, but you never can conceive what that's going to look like.
Taking on the role of Jesus Christ, how would you describe that feeling of taking on that character, that person who was, that person who is for billions of people on the planet?
Unworthy, humbling, challenging. I'm constantly challenged by him and the character, and there's always this striving to be more like him in order to be able to play him, and being, falteringly human, that can feel impossible at times, but I know that I'm here doing this for a reason, and I'm just going to continue to give him everything that I have.
And I've heard you say in interviews as well, Jonathan, that struggle that you experienced and perhaps still do, I'm not good enough to play someone like Jesus Christ, but then on the other hand, perhaps I was chosen for a reason to do this. How does that struggle play out?
Well, it's just the reality. There is this, like, I'm not really worthy to be in the presence of God and face to face with God at some point, or even to be called a follower of his because of what he did for me and who I am as a sinful, broken human being. But of course I'm going to devote my life to him, because my life cannot get any better. It cannot exist without him. I simply cannot exist without God. And because of that, I devote my life to the pursuit of his perfection in as best as I can meet that challenge. It's never going to happen. I'm never going to get there. I can aspire to sainthood. That's my goal, is aspire to sainthood. Will I get there? Probably not. I mean, I got a few days in purgatory at least, at the very minimum. But I'm gonna.
I'll see you there.
But I'm gonna do the best I can, and make sure I'm exercising the sacraments and going to confession and receiving the Eucharist and asking for the help of all those in the cloud of witnesses that came before us, and the saints, and Padre Pio and St. John Paul and St. Faustina, and all of my friends that have sustained me throughout everything that I've endured and what we've been doing to try to tell Jesus' story for the modern day audience, and try not to screw it up.
5 incredible seasons, and
so far.
The challenge of going from working in Los Angeles, broke, wondering where the next job is coming from in just 7 short years. You can't walk down the street now. We saw you here in Rome without security, people taking photographs, wanting autographs, and seen as a celebrity is one thing, and having to deal with that, that whole mindset. But then also, because of the person you are playing and portraying, the kind of blurring of the line. Whereas a great line I heard you say before, that for a lot of people, you are the closest thing to Jesus that they know, apart from reading his words and discovering about his life, that when they see the show, you are the image here on earth of the person they are so devoted to.
Yeah.
And even that time when a woman came to you with her disabled child, tell me about that. And I thought it was a perfect example of the position you find yourself in. Very difficult position.
Yeah, I was speaking at a stadium event a few years ago with my friend Pastor Greg Laurie, and we were wrapping up the evening, and I was getting ready to leave, and security had come to me before I left the room that I was hanging out in, saying that there was a woman that somehow they figured out where I was kind of held, and wanted to, just meet me, and brought her son, and her son was in a wheelchair, and he asked, "Did you want to say hello, or do you want me to find you another route to just kind of head out?" I said, "No, of course I'll say hello and see her," and so I did, and went out and to greet them, and she was just so excited, and I immediately realized that her son, he wasn't able to speak because of his disability, and he was just fully immobilized, and she had said to me, she had cited that their favorite episode of The Chosen was the one in which the paraplegic is lowered down through the roof of somebody's house. In our story, we make it Zebedee, James and John's father's house. And that, wouldn't it be great if God did the same thing for my son? And then there was just a pause, and I was like, oh, does she want she think I can do that? I didn't know what to say. I just said that would be amazing. I don't have that gift that I'm aware of, but I'd love to pray with you if that's okay. And she said, yeah. So we prayed together, and I just said some words, and she's very grateful, probably took a few photos, I think, I can't remember, and then I walked away, and then I just burst into tears because I thought at that moment, I thought to myself, well, surely on some level she must have been disappointed. I don't know what she was hoping for or expecting, but from what she said to me, that couldn't have been that couldn't have been it. Like, maybe she was thinking, maybe there's a chance, you know?
But it shows you the power of the show because of how well it is made, because of how good a job that you and the rest of the cast are doing.
And I think how God is using the show to reach people, to reach people's hearts, to kind of come through the television and bring them closer, bring them into this intimacy, this friendship with Jesus that they've never really seen depicted before anywhere else. But so many of them have imagined that that's what Jesus would be like. Like, so many people say to me, you're exactly what I would have pictured if I met Jesus. Like, I'm looking at him thinking, watching you on TV, and I'm like, this, he has to be this way. He must be like this. And so they start to import or impose or project that relationship that they have, or those ideas or those expectations, on a subconscious level, or maybe an even semi-conscious level, onto me, to an extent where, and even today, just meeting priests that are like, Jesus, hi Jesus. I'm like, hey Jonathan. I try to make sure they hear me say my own name, to remember it, to remind them that, like, there is a line of demarcation, you know.
At the premiere the other night, when I was there as well, and I said it to you, all the fans were shouting, Jesus, Jesus, trying to get your attention. It puts the bar much higher for you in your own personal life as well, doesn't it? I mean, as a Catholic influencer, as you're really being seen as someone who's setting an example.
Yeah, it makes me much more aware of an implied level of accountability as a performer, which may or may not be fair. But, if I'm being held to the standards of Jesus, or being seen as somebody that is at least trying to live out those standards in their life, well, that's great, because it's just better for me spiritually to be living in that manner. Of
course.
But I also know, like, I may do roles beyond The Chosen that might be, weird for people or upsetting. I wouldn't do anything, I think, that goes against my beliefs or anything like that, or a character that doesn't sit right with me, or that I don't discern first with the Lord before I commit to a project, which I do for everything I do, no matter what it is. I just did a movie last fall that's a romantic comedy that comes out next year that has nothing to do with faith or the Bible. It's modern day. It's with Kevin James. It's it's really funny. It's sweet. It's a wholesome film. They don't make films like this anymore, and I'm so proud of it. I've seen a cut of it already. It's called Solo Mio. It looks great, but it's not Jesus. Yeah. And I'm clean shaven for the most part.
Okay.
So I'm really curious as to how that'll play with people.
So in the future, if
I look more like you in this movie.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Great. And maybe.
So it's a downgrade.
Downgrade. Look, this is the Irish side of him coming out. His mother being from
Took you a second.
It took a second. It took a second. But how long did it take you then to grow this bad boy out?
Oh, this is probably
a day and a half.
No, I wish. No, I'm a slow grower here. It's probably about 5 months.
But I'm laughing at the fact, thinking of you saying, okay, well, look, I'm only going to take roles that align with my faith. That's going to rule everything out in Hollywood. You're going to be...
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not everything. No, I mean, because it's... Well, then you have to ask yourself, well, then what is it that aligns with your faith? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it could be a sci-fi film, but like the characters are wrestling with existential questions of of reality and science versus faith versus consciousness, versus extraterrestrials. Like, where does all of it fit in the lens of faith? So all of it's a
all these universal themes can be found in all these places.
Yeah.
Just before we wrap, on that topic, I've heard you speak before as well about spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
And, the more successful you become, the more you're kind of attacked, whether that's being tempted or...
I did read a script for a Western that I thought was phenomenal, that unfortunately conflicted with with The Chosen now, and a couple of other things where it just wasn't going to work out.
When they told you about the money, you said, "What conflict? Where do I sign?"
No, but it was pretty hardcore, and there was a lot of violence to it. But it was so beautifully written, and it was the violence within the context of the story was very organic to the time period and what was happening and how people were living, and the trek westward, and just how raw everything was and untamed, the West was. And
so like reality for back then.
Kind of, yeah. And that to me was really, really interesting. And then there was this one character that, he still had a moral compass, I'm like, well, that's cool. So that's something I'll
be that guy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But as far as spiritual warfare goes, that happens all the time. We just spent 3 weeks in Matera and Italy, and we all felt effects of spiritual warfare in many, many different ways, and it was, that period of this filming this season 6 is the hardest thing any of us have ever done, probably in our lives as artists. I've never done anything harder than that.
Really? Why was that?
Well, I think because we're filming the crucifixion. And I think because of the impact that it's going to have on people, it's going to be so huge and so life-changing for so many people on a level that they've never experienced cinematically. I think it's just going to really propagate the name of Jesus, at a breakneck speed. There are so many beautiful moments in it, but it's going to be extremely hard for people because we've had now 5, and by that point, we will have had 5.5 seasons of knowing Jesus as our friend, as a miracle worker, as an intimate companion and a colleague and a teacher and a rabbi, and having spent 45 hours of story with him, healthy and okay, and then to see that rapidly decline in a singular season it's just going to be devastating.
It's going to be powerful.
Yeah.
It's going to be incredible. And
yeah.
Season 5 has just premiered, it's launched, it's on Amazon, it's on TV networks around the world, and people can look up the website The Chosen where they can watch the previous seasons free of charge, which is awesome. Finally, Jonathan, as I'm so grateful for this time with you in this conversation, looking back on everything that The Chosen has represented for the viewers, for you, for the cast, the crew, what are you most proud of when you look back at this incredible project so far, yet to be completed?
The reach and impact of the show, and the reality of what it's doing for people, the reality of how God is using it to encounter people that even previously had no relationship with Him whatsoever, but are now curious about one, or going to a church for the first time, or buying a Bible for the first time. We've seen it even with guest cast members, just being on the show for a couple of episodes, and all of a sudden now they're like, I think I want to buy a Bible. What's better than that?
Yeah. As Father Cullum said to you, I'll say it again, not as a priest, but I'll pray for you. Jonathan.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.